On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1978. We're going to be taking a look at Glen Campbell, and he's going to be performing MacArthur Park. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So this is a long performance video. It's about 9 minutes in length, something like that. So we'll watch it and I will be jumping into it. There's going to be a link in the description below if you guys want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it, and watch it with the original levels, because I have isolated Glen's vocal, so we will have that a little bit more prominent than the backing in places. We will be having the pitch monitoring software up on screen as well, and Glen is performing with the Boston Pops Orchestra. But let's jump into it and see how they get on.
As we followed in a dance, between the parted pages, and we're pressed in love's hot fever diamond, like a striped pair of pants. And I recall the yellow cotton dress foaming like a wave on the ground around your knees, and birds like tender babies in your hand, and old men playing checkers by the trees. MacArthur Park is melting in the dark, all the sweet green ice in flowing down. Someone left my cake out in the rain, and I don't think that I can take it, 'cause it took so long to bake it, and I'll never have that recipe again. Oh no!
I'm just going to jump in here. The first thing that strikes you about Glen's voice is when we're looking at the pitch monitoring software, his accuracy pitch-wise. I mean, he's just all over it all the time. We just have to have a little look around as to, where these notes are sitting. Just bang on the A3 here, going down to the F3 as well. Really accurate, and because this is a live vocal, I mean, it's even more impressive, but we're not going to be snapped to lines here because it is Glen's natural voice. And as we go back through, you'll see this kind of thing all the time, the A3. We do have a lot of reverb on the sound, which means that once the vocal has been delivered, you'll see the pitch just wander ever so slightly because of that reverb, just continue on that note, and effectively just diluting that note into that cavernous space. So just having a little run through, you can see that we've got all of these notes. Even when he just flips his voice up to a note like this A sharp 3, he's bang on, slides down, back up to the A3, bang on, down as far as the F3, up to the G3. So it's not just a case of being accurate, just holding one note and staying there. It's sliding from one to the next and just getting these hit points of stopping exactly where he needs to on the slide, coming back up again and again. Here the G3, really accurate. We can take this back and just have a little listen to this vocal and how he's not just singing it mechanically, he's just blending one note into the next with these slides.
And we're pressed in love's hot fever diamond, like a striped pair of pants.
Yeah, it's a really deliberate glissando technique, that sliding between one note and the next. just to get that vocal delivery even smoother than it would be if you were just singing the note straight. It would sound like you're walking down steps rather than having a nice slide down, literally sliding down vocally, and it just makes it sound a lot more relaxed, a lot less regimented, which is exactly the kind of feel that you want for this song, written by Jimmy Webb, by the way. So we'll get back into the performance, and I have taken down the orchestra ever so slightly so that we can hear Glen's voice even more clearly.
There will be another song for me, and I will sing. And there will be another dream for me, someone will bring.
And just to point out, really important here to make a mental note of this C3 that we went down to, and it didn't pick it up on the pitch monitoring software, but this C3, when we look over to our ranges, the C3 we can see here on the piano. You want to make a mental note of that as we go through the performance, just to get an idea of Glen's range and the notes that he covers. But let's get back into it.
I will taste the wine while it is warm, and never let you catch me looking in the sun.
I mean, that's such a great vocal phrase there, just from a pitch perspective. I mean, when you're not even thinking about technique, control, the tone, and everything that's great about it, control of vibrato as well, just picking out these notes so accurately. We'll look at it again. Obviously, it's a very long performance video, so we won't keep looking at bits over and over again, but it's so easy to do with Glen Campbell. Let's watch it again.
I will taste the wine while it is warm, and never let you catch me looking in the sun. And after all the loves of my life, after all the loves of my life, you'll still be the one. For I will take my life into my hands, and I will use it, and I will win the worship in your eyes, and I will lose it. But I'll have the things that I desire, and my passion flow like rivers to the sky. After all the loves of my life, God knows, after all the loves of my life, I'll be thinking of you and wondering why.
I mean, when we're talking about Glen's voice, I mean, the problem that I have with Glen's voice is that it's so good, and I know we're just about to see him pick up a guitar, and generally when I'm talking about a vocalist like this, they're in front of an orchestra, usually they wouldn't really have the instrumental ability, or they might have instrumental ability in order just to play a few chords and sing along, but that's not required here. But Glen, he's just got this standalone vocal that, you know, is just great. He's got such control, has that conversational quality to it, has this really even vibrato all the time, makes it look really easy. And like I said, the problem that I've got is that he's about to pick up the guitar, and I mean, it's really low in the mix, unfortunately, but I'll attempt to just point out a few things that Glen's doing on that fretboard, because to have this vocal ability and then pick up a guitar and do the kind of techniques that he's about to do, it's just on a totally different level. And I think people that might not play the guitar won't appreciate this at all as to the level that Glen Campbell was at guitar playing. And I've mentioned this in other videos about country players, but especially Glen Campbell and Roy Clark. Those kinds of guys, Jerry Reed as well. Guys that weren't necessarily well known for, you know, playing the guitar or playing the guitar at the level that they could. They might just do something a little bit, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek, something like that, especially with Roy Clark. But they were top players, technically just right at the top level, but people won't necessarily get to appreciate that. And with Glen Campbell, he's just got such a great voice, and he was such a great guitar player that it was like too much in one. And I think actually it probably was too much talent in one person, because he might not get that recognition for his guitar playing because he was so good vocally. So we will jump into it now, where we start to get a little bit more up tempo and Glen grabs the guitar.
Glen Campbell with Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops for the Jimmy Webb hit tune, MacArthur Park.
And there we have it. Have some of that. Just an all-round performance, and you know, we will get the guitar out in a second. Probably a bad idea to try and attempt any of what Glen was doing there. And yeah, unfortunately, I think it might be the horn section. When that kicks in, the volume of the orchestra obviously really does ramp up so that we lose a lot of that guitar work going on. But when we're talking about Glen's voice as well, back here, taking a look at this high note of the song, we've got this C5, which we said about the C3 earlier. So we've got 2 octaves worth of range here. So let's have a little look over our piano. We've got the C3, which is down here, and you can see, you know, bottom end baritone range, and the C5 all the way up here, top end of the male tenor range, male tenor high C. So all of these notes, I mean, when you're looking at it on a piano, the amount of notes that Glen had access to, I mean, it was just crazy, and he could go above this as well. I've heard him hit, you know, notes in head voice that'll be up here and falsetto as well. So he had so many notes, and more than 2-octave range, but the 2-octave range that we can hear in this performance is tonally consistent as well, because with this C5 that he's hitting, this isn't a light, head voice that he's getting into or falsetto. He's still putting a lot into this. And then back down to that F4 with that really even vibrato. But hitting that C5, he even gets a little bit of rasp to his sound because he's leaning into that sound. And that's what happens when you start pushing chest voice to its upper limits. You tend to hear that rasp just kick in a little bit. So it shows that, Glen isn't dodging anything here. He's really going for it and nails that C5. So we've got the guitar out. Let's just jump into the solo and just try to attempt to see what Glen's doing on the fretboard. And when we go over to that D minor, we had a little line in there, but we started out with that G minor, and again, or might have been a little bend down there, or a little slide up and down, but really understated start, getting into then the D minor. And here we've just got the octaves being played by Glen, and this will be kind of like that, something like that. And we just saw there, unfortunately, we do lose the guitar, but you can see how that he was in that kind of place, doing that kind of thing. So again, getting into his shape, and that little slide, and you'll see him move down to, this minor pentatonic shape 1, but he's kind of got this, and he's kind of doing that kind of motion with his hand. So there's some kind of run going on, maybe even moving up again. But we do lose it, but you can see the way that his fingers are moving here. You can't mind this, and you can't pretend at this kind of level, you can't pretend to be as good as Glen is. You can see that his picking and his left hand movements are synchronized, that if we could hear what he was playing, it would all just be spot on because he was at that level. And when we're talking about playing like this is just years and years and years and years of dedicated practice, getting your technique up to the highest level. And Glen was so technically proficient with alternate picking as well, economy picking, you name it, he could do it all. And you can see it all in this performance. Any guitarist watching this can see that Glen is just shredding the hell out of this guitar, and we know it's on a really clean tone as well. So there's nowhere to hide, no distortion hiding any inadequacies technique wise. We'll let it play on. And we've got this kind of alternate picking run that's going on that you can just about make out. And when you're listening out for the tempo of the playing that we've got here with the alternate picking, we've got this, it's a really pushed tempo. So if we had a run or just that kind of thing, you got to try and get all of those alternate picks synchronized, and we can't hear exactly what Glen's doing, but it's that kind of thing where all of these notes, rather than just playing them with hammer-ons and pull-offs, they're all being picked, which is just so much more difficult to do, to synchronize everything with your right hand. even doing it, you know, at that tempo is just ridiculous. I mean, you've got to really have sat down and worked out different runs and get all of that muscle memory in there with the left hand. And yeah, because it's clean, it's going to have to be super accurate technique-wise. But Glen had this, and so many other country players just have this because they've always practiced on clean tones, which means that their technique has always been at the forefront, so you can hear as soon as there's anything slightly wrong with it. I mean, it is crazy. Like I said, the problem that I've got with Glen Campbell is that he could do this, and he had a voice that just could be at the front of a stage and totally dominate a performance and engage an audience and just be so great just on his own without an instrument. But then he's picked up the guitar and he's got this kind of ability, and the fact that, yeah, he's part of the Wrecking Crew, having that session ability. And, you know, session players have to be at the top of their game. Glen was on the guitar, but just also vocally. I mean, because I learned to sing, for me, singing is something that I know is very difficult to do. So when you see a singer like this, you just think, oh, wow, that's amazing. And that's without even picking up a guitar or seeing them play an instrument. You'd think it was amazing anyway. But then as a guitarist, which is what I started on, you know, forget the whole singing thing, and then you see him do this, it's just so impressive on so many different levels. Let me say that it's not just talent. To be this proficient at these techniques on the guitar is just a lifetime of dedication to the instrument, and don't let that fly under the radar. A lot of people might just know Glen Campbell as a singer, but he has spent a lifetime getting down these guitar techniques, which is so rare to see a great vocalist, a standalone vocalist, you know, covering 2 octaves here with his vocal in front of an orchestra, totally selling the performance and engaging the audience. And then to pick up a guitar and have these kinds of techniques, it is so rare for somebody to be so good at both of these things. Let's just listen on a bit more. So he's just melted everyone's face in the venue and then he just comes in spot on with the E4 vocally, and he's just straight back into it with his voice. And I mean, some of the stuff that's going on there, again, loads of alternate picking all over the fretboard, and there's even a line that he played this a few times where we kind of had this, that kind of thing where, I mean, it's not very many notes, but when you break it down, he's kind of applying palm muting. He's going with the right hand up, down, down, in order to get kind of an aggressive sound to it. So you kind of get that kind of thing. And even just playing that, I mean, it's so few notes, but playing it the way that Glen played it is so difficult because there's so much that you have to do technique-wise in order to get it to sound like Glen gets it to sound. So it gives you an idea of the kind of level we're talking here. But I know that this video's probably been a bit of a long one just because of the performance, but also when you start jumping into the guitar, it could be endless, the amount of technique that we've got going on. And I mean, a lot of people might think, why am I playing this guitar, the Gem, rather than the Fender Strat? I was playing it on my Strat, but unfortunately had to start again because I got some shavings from the strings, so splinters basically. So yeah, I was out of action, had to go and get some gaffer tape. Top tip here, if you do get any problems and you get tiny little splinters from your strings when they need changing, which I will do, get some gaffer tape and just press it on your fingers, and the gaffer tape picks up the little shavings, so then you can go back to playing. So there's a top tip for you at the end of this video. Anyway, thank you guys for requesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions and requests coming in the comments section below. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. As always, let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!